Hello, dear friends. Patrick here. We're covering today chapter 6 in the excellent book, The Reason for God by Timothy Keller, Belief in an Age of Skepticism. This chapter is called Has Science Disproved Christianity? Has Science Disproved Christianity? Chapter 6. And once again, I cannot do this book justice just by giving it a superficial review. I highly recommend, if you can get your hands on a copy of this book somewhere, from Amazon or wherever you can, it is excellent addition to any library. So chapter 6, he starts off saying the books by Richard Dawkins, Daniel Dennett, Sam Harris, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, they call them, assume science, and evolutionary science in particular, has made belief in God unnecessary and obsolete. Dawkins very famously said, although atheism might have been logically tenable before Darwin, Darwin made it possible to be an intellectually fulfilled atheist, he called it, right? The snobbery of Richard Dawkins and the God delusion. And in the God delusion, he goes even farther. He argues that you can't be an intelligent scientific thinker and still hold religious beliefs. Dawkins claimed that there was a study in 1998 that showed only about 7% of American scientists in the National Academy of Sciences believed in a personal God, 7%. And that is refuted later on in the chapter on page, let me find it for you here. Sorry to put my head down. I know it's not very polite, but I have to look through 2 famous studies on page 92 here. He says, support this contention were done 1916 and then separated by 80 years, and 1997 they repeated the same study 80 years later. American psychologist James Luba conducted a survey of scientists asking if they believed in a God who actively communicates with humanity, at least through prayer. 40% said they did, 40% said they did not, and 20% were not sure. They repeated the study in 1997 and found the numbers had not changed significantly in 80 years. So Dawkins is saying, only 7% of scientists believe in God, whereas a study in 1997 says 40% believe in God and 20% are not sure. And so you have this exaggeration. And he talks in the chapter, Timothy Keller references an excellent study that was done where the purpose of this conflict between science and religion was exaggerated in the media, exaggerated in these published surveys, exaggerated in these journals, because they wanted to gain more power for academia and remove power from any faith-based organizations or clergy. They wanted to get the power over the academic institutions into the hands of the secular leaders. And so it was a purposeful cultural, almost a military strategy to shift the balance of power as far back as the early 1900s. So that's quite a remarkable study that was done at that time. And so I'm going to go on and continue here. The same year that the God Delusion by Dawkins was published, a fellow by the name of Francis Collins published The Language of God, or a lady, I don't know, Francis could be a lady, I suppose, head of the human... Collins is an eminent research scientist and head of the Human Genome Project. He believes in evolutionary science and critiques the intelligent design movement as well, that denies the transmutation of species. However, he believes that the fine-tuning beauty and order of nature nonetheless point to a divine creator, and describes his conversion from atheism to Christianity. Here then is what Dawkins says can't exist: someone with a firm belief in evolution as a biological mechanism, but who completely rejects philosophical naturalism. Collins, of course, is not alone, and he references another prominent scientist by the name of Owen Gingerich. He's a Harvard astronomer, and he wrote God's Universe. He also critiques intelligent design, but rejects evolution as well, and believes in a God-designed universe. There's a footnote on that gentleman as well. So contrary to Dawkins' simplistic schema, there are many different models proposed about how God relates to the development of the life forms that we see today. Awesome sentence there describing Dawkins' theories as simple. I can see Dawkins now just rolling over in his grave, although he's still with us, at the thought of being put in his place, letting us know that his ideas are simplistic. In fact, if you recall, Dawkins, he came up when in his earlier work he was talking about the theory of evolution, and some people countered and said, well, it's just a theory. You can't go back to the beginning of life forms and say, oh, look at there's evolution and prove it from, that we came from fish. And so Dawkins' way around it was he said, oh, it's not a theory anymore, it's a fact. And he reinforced that by saying, well, it's taught in schools now, so that means it's a fact. And because all these scientists accept it, it's no longer a theory, it's actually a fact. And if you go against it, he compared people that go against the fact of evolution, he equated them to Holocaust deniers in one of his books. Can you believe that? That's what Richard Dawkins did. I did a review on that book where he mentions that. You can see it for yourself. It's absolutely disgusting, simplistic theory that he has, and he tried to exaggerate it beyond all measure to support his own pet schema, as he calls it, his own pet ideas. And Richard Dawkins is a disgusting human being, both on the level of destroying the faith of the United Kingdom, but also on the level of being dishonest in promoting his own version of reality. He is intellectually dishonest, and he is dishonest as a human being in terms of the amount of damage he has done to the faith of thousands and thousands, even millions of people. Alistair McGrath, a theologian with the Oxford doctorate in biophysics, writes that most of the many unbelieving scientists he knows are atheists on other grounds than their science, other grounds other than their science. He goes on to discuss that. And then you have a fellow by the Nagel. He said that, he wrote, he criticized the God delusion by Dawkins in an article in the New Republic. And in it, he says, I can't quote the whole thing, but he says, I believe the project is doomed, that conscience, experience, thought, value, and so forth, they're not illusions, even though they cannot be identified with physical facts. He says you can't just explain everything in the physical realm. And that's why many atheists, even atheists, believe that Dawkins is wrong. The science cannot explain everything, and why scientific thought can be compatible with religious belief. That's from page 95. Excellent quote right there. I'm getting a little long. I was hoping to finish this video with the last chapter on page 99 of chapter 6, which is an excellent paragraph. I wish I could read you the whole paragraph. I'll try and get through it as quickly as I might have to paraphrase slightly. The most instructive thing about the purpose of the biblical miracles, they lead not just to cognitive belief, but to a type of worship and awe and wonder. Jesus' miracles in particular, they're not magic tricks designed to impress. He never said, hey, see that tree over there? Watch me make it burst into flames. He never did that kind of trickery. Instead, he used miraculous power to heal the sick, feed the hungry, raise the dead. Why? Because these miracles is a suspension of the natural order. Jesus meant them to be the restoration of the natural order. The Bible tells us that God did not originally make the world to have disease, hunger, and death in it. Jesus came to redeem where it was wrong and heal the world where it was broken. His miracles are not just proofs that he has power, but also wonderful foretastes of what he is going to do with that power. Jesus' miracles are not just a challenge to our mind, but a promise to our hearts that the world we all want is coming. There's a future world coming, a future kingdom that is perfected, where there is no disease, where people don't die anymore, where people don't go hungry anymore, where people don't get sick anymore. This is the purpose of Jesus' miracles, to show that God has a kingdom coming when he returns again, when all these sufferings are taken away. And so that's an excellent way to finish that chapter. But just so much in that chapter 6 about science being compatible with Christian belief that I can't just tell you in stronger terms that it is a very, very well written, easy accessible to any person. There's nothing complicated about the book at all. It's very easy to read, but filled with a ton of footnotes, a ton of facts that dispute a lot of the work of Richard Dawkins, and not only from the author, but from these prominent scientists that argue against his simplistic ideas for various other reasons. Some of them remain atheists, some of them became Christian, but a lot of them say, you know, Dawkins is too simple in his idea. And I'm not surprised that they do that. I mean, Dawkins, the guy who once looked at a fish and said he was rendered speechless because he thought he was looking into the face of his ancestor by looking in the face of this prehistoric fish that they found. Can you imagine someone being that mentally deficient to make such a statement? Maybe he was drunk at the time. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But there you have it. Chapter 6, The Reason for God by Timothy Keller. An excellent, excellent book. I can't recommend it enough. And we shall move on. As I said, it is a slow go. I'm getting through these chapters rather slowly, but we'll endeavor to persevere. I've already finished reading chapter 7, so I'll probably do a quick review on that after I finish this video. Thanks a lot for watching. God bless you. We'll talk to you again soon. Don't forget to spend time with people you love. Bye for now.